As legislation on taxes continues to be debated this week and next, may all members be mindful that the institutions and structures of our great nation guarantee the opportunities that have allowed some to achieve great success while others continue to struggle. May their efforts these days guarantee that there are not winners and losers under new tax laws, but benefits balanced and shared by all Americans.
That prayer by House Chaplain Patrick Conroy in the thick of the congressional debate over the tax bill may have been the prayer that led to his dismissal. After being asked by Speaker Paul Ryan to resign as House Chaplain, Conroy revealed this week that his exit was not voluntary. Conroy says he doesn't know exactly why he was asked to resign. But in an interview with the New York Times, he says that after that prayer on the tax debate, a staffer from Ryan's office accused him of getting too political. And Ryan told him, quote, "Padre, you've just got to stay out of politics." Joining me now to discuss is the Reverend William Barber, president and senior lecturer at Repairs of the Breach. And Bishop Barber, thank you so much for being here. And I'll report, just to let the audience know, 148 members of Congress have now sent a letter to Speaker Ryan demanding to know, demanding answers about this resignation. A bit of it reads, "The sensitive nature of this situation requires a description of the process followed to arrive at the decision and a justification for that decision. We believe that absent such details, questions will inevitably arise about the politicization of the process for hiring and dismissing a House chaplain." I believe he might be the first House chaplain to be dismissed, if not the second or first. And Representative Peter King, a Republican from New York, had this to say on Friday about Conroy's resignation.
What did you hear from the Speaker this morning about the Father Conroy situation?
Just said that there was dissatisfaction among members with Father Conroy, and that was it. So we need more of an explanation. I'm not aware of any discontent or any criticism, and to be the first House chaplain removed in the history of Congress in the middle of a term raises serious questions, and I think we deserve more of an explanation and why was there political pressure.
And Bishop Barber, what do you make of this dismissal?
Well, thank you so much, Joy. One of the things is that even if that's not the reason, the fact that the staffer and Ryan would say, "Padre, you've got to stop being more political," and even those persons, Republicans or others who've signed on, if you still voted for that unjust tax bill, that's the real problem here. We are seeing a kind of theological malpractice and a form of Christian nationalism that it really doesn't line up with Scripture, doesn't line up theologically. People put their hands on Bibles and swear allegiance to it and the Constitution and then pass policies that are different. I mean, think about it. The Poor People's Campaign, National Call for Moral Revival, we just released a piece called "The Souls of Poor Folk" with the Institute of Policy Studies. You have 140 million poor and working people in America right now, and we're dismissing chaplains for talking about poverty. You have 43% of Americans in poverty. You have nearly 200,000 people dying from low wealth. There are 62 million people working at less than a living wage. 54% of those are African American. Most poor people are poor women and white and children. 13 million poor children. 500,000 people or more homeless, and a large majority of them are LGBTQ. 37 million people without health care in the wealthiest nation in the world. We're firing chaplains. 40 million children exposed, 4 million children exposed to lead. Poor Latino and African American and brown and black immigrants being mistreated. Indigenous Native Americans, Apaches, Cherokees, Navajo, Pueblo people still being mistreated and kept in poverty. Passing tax cuts that benefit the wealthy and hurt the poor and the working poor and will defund programs that would help lift them. Voting rights are being blocked, and we are firing chaplains.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so theologically concerning, you know. And Joe, I read the Bible, you know, the Bible in Isaiah says, "Woe unto those who legislate evil and rob the poor of their right." Ezekiel 22 calls leaders that hurt the poor and immigrants wolves. Jesus' first sermon began with the poor, and Jesus' last sermon said that a nation will be judged by how it treats the poor. This is very concerning to be happening in our country. If you can't take a prayer, you surely can't take prophetic challenge.
Yeah, and Paul Ryan has been at odds with, you know, and Father Conroy is a Jesuit, you know, and Paul Ryan has had his tangles with the church in the past over his real devotion to the idea of tax cuts for the wealthy and for corporations. Do you feel that this might just be an outgrowth of that?
I think very much it is, because you see what Brian and his cohorts and many of his co-signers, you know, the Falwells and the others, the Franklin Grahams and those of that like, they actually kind of try to suggest the only moral issues are being against gay people, being for prayer in the school, being against abortion, being for tax cuts. And they really misrepresent the truth of the gospel. There are more than 2,000 scriptures that talk about in the public arena, we should be politically involved, not Democrat or Republican, but the gospel is political. More than 2,000 scriptures say how we care about the poor and the least of these, the broken and the immigrants, is really the measure of our morality. It's really what we will be judged by. And I really believe they know they're guilty. That's why this prayer bothered them so bad. Their policies are wrong, they're discriminatory, and they degrade the least of these.
Yeah, thank you. Bishop William Barber, thank you so much for being here this morning. Truly appreciate your time.